My sister Emily held up her phone, live streaming to 10,000 followers. Everyone, look! My amazing big sister is giving me a brand new SUV for my birthday! She was glowing. The whole restaurant was watching. My parents were smiling at me like I'd finally done something right. I reached into my purse and placed a document on the table. Emily grabbed it. Her smile froze. It wasn't car keys. It wasn't a gift card. It was a subpoena, a federal court order, with her name on it, for financial fraud. The live stream was still running. 10,000 people watched her face fall apart in real time. I stood up, buttoned my coat, and looked her dead in the eye. I'm not giving you a car, Emily. I'm giving you a lesson in privacy. And by the way, I already called the restaurant. The credit card I gave Mom to pay for this dinner? Canceled. 30 minutes ago. Good luck with the $1,200 bill. My father grabbed my arm. You're making a scene. No, Dad. Emily made the scene. She put it on the internet herself. I walked out. And here's the thing nobody at that table understood yet. This wasn't revenge. This was just the opening move. Because 3 weeks before that dinner, I got a phone call from my bank. A loan was past due. A $100,000 loan against my apartment, taken out in my name, and I had never signed a single piece of paper. That's when I realized Emily wasn't just my spoiled little sister anymore. She had stolen my identity, my home, my financial future, and my own parents had helped her do it. So yes, I walked out of that restaurant smiling, because I had already called my lawyer. My name is Katherine Wells, 41 years old, VP of Finance, Manhattan. And 3 weeks before that dinner, I was just a woman trying to get through a Tuesday. It was ordinary. I was at my desk, 42nd floor, coffee in hand, back-to-back meetings starting in 10 minutes. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't pick up.
Ms. Wells, this is First National Bank. I'm calling about your HELOC account. The payment is now 60 days past due.
I set down my coffee. I'm sorry, my what?
Your home equity line of credit against your property at 14 West 72nd Street. The outstanding balance is $100,000.
The room went quiet around me. Not literally, but in my head, complete silence. I don't have a HELOC, I said. I have never applied for a HELOC. A pause on the line.
Ma'am, the application was submitted 8 months ago.
It was approved under your Social Security number. The funds were dispersed to a Chase checking account. I pulled up my credit report right there at my desk, and my stomach dropped. The account was real, the debt was real, and my signature, my name, was on every single document. Except I had never touched those documents in my life. I knew immediately who had done this. Not because I had proof, not yet. Because I knew Emily. I'd been sending money home for 11 years, every month without fail. Groceries, rent, car payments, Emily's student loans, Emily's gym membership, Emily's investment opportunities that somehow always needed my credit card. I never said no. I told myself, this is what good daughters do. This is what good sisters do. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being a sister. I became a bank. And when a bank stops giving out free money, you find a way to take it anyway. I hired a forensic accountant that same afternoon. Within a week, she handed me a folder. Emily had used my social security number, my address, my employment information. But here's the part that made my hands shake. The witnesses on the loan documents? My mother's signature. My father's signature. They hadn't just looked the other way. They had signed their names. They had stood in a bank. They had watched a loan officer process a $100,000 debt in my name. And then they had gone home and said nothing. Not a word. For 8 months. My father called me every Sunday. We talked about the weather. We talked about my job. He asked if I was eating well. He never mentioned the $100,000 sitting on my apartment. I sat with that folder for a long time. I thought about 11 years of wire transfers. 11 years of just this once. 11 years of phone calls that always ended with a number. And I made a decision. Not out of anger. Anger is messy. Anger makes mistakes. I made it out of clarity. They didn't make a family mistake. They committed a felony. Forging signatures on a federal loan document. Identity theft. Bank fraud. In America, that carries up to 30 years in prison. I closed the folder. I picked up the phone. And I called the best financial crimes attorney in New York City. "Clear your schedule," I told her. "We have work to do." Because if my own family was willing to steal my home out from under me, then I was done playing by family rules. My attorney's name was Sandra Kowalski. 30 years in financial crimes, gray hair, sharp eyes, and a handshake that told you immediately, this woman has seen everything. She looked at my folder for about 4 minutes. Didn't say a word, just turned pages. Then she looked up. "This isn't a family dispute," she said. "This is a federal case. Are you prepared for what that means?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Tell me what to sign." The first move was quiet, surgical. Sandra filed a police report for the stolen Tesla, the car registered in my name that Emily had been driving for 2 years like it was her personal property, posting photos of it on Instagram, parking it in front of brunch spots in Soho. I never said a word to Emily. Not a warning, not a hint. I simply reported it stolen. On a Wednesday afternoon, Emily was driving back from a brand event in New Jersey. Route 1, afternoon traffic, sun in her eyes. A highway patrol officer pulled up behind her. Lights on. She probably thought it was a speeding ticket. She rolled down her window, smiling that smile she always used when she wanted something. The officer didn't smile back. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle. This car has been reported stolen." "What? No, this is my sister's car. She lets me—" "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle, now." 2 officers, hands on their belts, body cameras running. Emily stood on the shoulder of Route 1 in her influencer outfit, the silk blouse, the designer sunglasses, while they ran her information. A truck driver slowed down to look. Someone in a passing car filmed it on their phone. By Thursday morning, the video had 40,000 views. By Friday, her sponsors started calling, not to check on her, to cancel her contracts. Here's something most people don't understand about being an influencer. Your entire career is built on one thing: likability. The moment people stop liking you, the money stops. Just like that. No severance, no appeal, no second chances. Emily had spent 3 years carefully building an image. Aspirational, warm, relatable. A woman who gets pulled off the highway on suspicion of car theft is none of those things. 2 brand deals gone by the weekend, a third by Monday. And the comments, I won't repeat them, but I read every single one. While Emily was managing her public collapse, Sandra and I were handling the quieter work. The confession of judgment was ready. In plain English, it meant that if my family failed to repay what they owed, I didn't need a trial. I didn't need a judge. I could move directly to seizing assets. My father thought family loyalty was a shield. Sandra explained to him, in a very calm, very professional letter, that it was not. He called me that night. First time in weeks he'd dialed my number without needing money. His voice was different, smaller somehow. You would really do this to your own father? I had thought about this moment for a long time, rehearsed different answers, emotional ones, cutting ones. But when it actually came, I felt nothing dramatic, just tired and clear. Dad, you signed your name on a document that put a $100,000 debt on my home. You did that, not me. Silence. I gave this family everything I had for 11 years. And you went to a bank and forged my signature. So yes, I would really do this. I hung up. Sandra called the next morning, 7:15 sharp. Your mother filed a complaint with your company's compliance department. I set down my coffee. Of course she did. They've put you on administrative leave pending investigation. Standard procedure. Don't panic. Don't panic. My mother, the woman I sent grocery money to every single month, had just tried to take my career. After my identity. After my home. Now my job. I sat very still for a moment. Then I opened my desk drawer and took out a second folder. I had been building this one for a while. Every wire transfer, every Venmo payment, every text message where I'd written, "This is a loan, please pay me back." 11 years of careful, documented generosity that I had quietly, methodically saved. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I think I always knew. I walked into that compliance meeting with 47 pages of evidence. And something else. Something Sandra had uncovered that I hadn't expected. The money my father borrowed, the money he pressured me for year after year, always urgent, always a crisis, hadn't all gone to family expenses. Some of it had gone to a woman in Queens and her 2 children. My father had another family. My mother didn't know. Not yet. I want to be honest with you. When Sandra first showed me those bank statements, the transfers, the apartment lease in Queens, the children's school tuition, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sick. Not for my father, for my mother. Whatever she had done, signing those documents, filing that complaint against me, she had done it believing she was protecting her family. She had no idea the man she was protecting had been living a double life for 9 years. I sat with that information for 3 days before I decided what to do with it. The compliance meeting was on a Thursday. I walked in with my 47-page folder and sat across from 2 investigators and the company's general counsel. They expected someone defensive, nervous, someone who needed to explain herself. Instead, I opened the folder and placed it on the table. I've been sending money to my family for 11 years. Every transfer is documented. Every payment was recorded as a loan. I have the text messages, the wire confirmations, and the written acknowledgments from my father and sister. The general counsel leaned forward and picked up the first page. I kept going. My mother filed that complaint because my family is currently subject to a legal action I initiated after they took out a $100,000 loan against my apartment using my forged signature. I am not the aggressor here. I am the victim. Silence in the room. I'd also like to note, I brought my attorney. Sandra stepped in from the hallway and took the seat beside me. The mood in that room shifted so fast, I almost felt the air move. 3 hours later, the administrative leave was lifted. But more than that, the company's legal team offered to support my case. In America, when an employee is being extorted by outside parties, corporations protect themselves by protecting you. My situation had a name in their legal department: third-party financial coercion. My mother had tried to burn down my career. Instead, she handed me an army of corporate lawyers. That evening, I drove to my parents' house, unannounced. My mother opened the door. She looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that had nothing to do with the hour. I didn't come to fight. I came because what I was about to do required me to look her in the face first. I handed her a single printed page. Bank statements. The apartment in Queens. 9 years of payments. She looked at it for a long time without speaking. Mom? She wouldn't look up. Did you know? When she finally raised her eyes, I had my answer. She hadn't known. Not the full truth. But somewhere, in the way only a wife of 30 years can know, she had suspected. And she had chosen not to look. I sat down across from her at the kitchen table. The same table where I'd done homework as a child, where we'd eaten 1,000 dinners. I'm not showing you this to hurt you, I said. I'm showing you because you deserve to know what you were protecting. She pressed her hand over her mouth. Outside, a car pulled into the driveway. My father was home. What happened in that kitchen in the next 20 minutes, I'll carry it for the rest of my life. My father walked in and saw us both sitting there, saw the paper on the table, and I watched something move across his face. Not guilt, exactly. More like a man who had been running for a very long time and just realized he'd reached the edge of the road. He started with excuses, then explanations. Then, when neither worked, he turned to me. You had no right. I had every right, I said quietly. She's my mother. My mother stood up slowly, picked up the paper, folded it once, very neatly. And then she looked at my father in a way I had never seen before. Not anger, something colder than anger. Get out of my house, she said. I didn't plan for it to go that way. But some truths, once they're in the room, you can't put them back. And my father? He was about to discover that losing his marriage was only the beginning of what he stood to lose. My father moved out on a Saturday. 2 suitcases, a box of files. The same man who once told me that family was everything loaded his car alone while my mother sat at the kitchen table and didn't watch. I didn't feel satisfaction. I want to be clear about that. But I felt something settle, like a house finally leveling after years of leaning. The wage garnishment order went into effect the following Monday. Sandra had filed everything correctly, precisely, without a single loose thread. That was her gift. Not drama, not intimidation. Just paperwork so airtight that fighting it would cost more than paying it. My father received the notice at his new address, a budget extended stay hotel in New Jersey. He called me 4 times that day. I let it go to voicemail. The 5th time, I picked up. 25%, he said. They're taking 25% of my pension. Do you know what that leaves me? I know exactly what it leaves you, Dad. I calculated it myself. This is not how family— You stopped being my family, I said, the day you walked into that bank. I hung up. And I did not call back. Emily's garnishment hit the same leak. 25% of every paycheck, every brand payment, every sponsored post, automatically redirected to my account before she ever saw it. The problem was, there weren't many paychecks left. After the highway video, after the stolen car stories spread across every gossip account that covered influencer drama, the brand deals had dried up almost completely. She picked up a hostess job at a restaurant in Midtown. Cash shifts, 4 nights a week. The irony wasn't lost on me. Emily, who had once live-streamed from rooftop parties, who had called herself a content creator and a lifestyle entrepreneur, was now seating strangers at tables she could no longer afford to eat at. 25% of a hostess salary. Sandra sent me the first deposit confirmation on a Tuesday morning. It was not a large number, but it was real. And it was mine. The credit score report came in shortly after. Emily's score had dropped below 400. In America, that number isn't just embarrassing. It's a locked door on almost every room worth entering. No apartment lease without a cosigner. No car financing. No credit card with a reasonable limit. No future built on borrowed time. She had to leave her apartment in Chelsea, the one she'd furnished with money she borrowed from me and never intended to return. She moved into a basement unit in a neighborhood she'd never once featured on her feed. No natural light, radiator that clanged all night, a landlord who accepted cash only because she had no other option. I heard this from my mother, who heard it from a neighbor. I didn't reach out. People sometimes ask me, "Didn't you feel guilty?" And I tell them the truth. Guilt requires believing you did something wrong. I gave my family 11 years. I gave them patience, money, silence, and the benefit of the doubt so many times I lost count. They gave me forged documents and a federal debt. So no, I didn't feel guilty. What I felt, for the first time in a very long time, was free. But freedom, I was about to learn, has one final test, and Emily was already planning to put me through it. Emily called me on a Sunday morning, 6 weeks after the garnishment, 8 weeks after the highway. Her voice was different, soft in a way I didn't recognize. The sharpness was gone, that particular edge she'd carried her whole life, the one that said, "I know exactly how to get what I want." It wasn't there anymore. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Just us. No lawyers, no mom. Just 2 sisters." I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in Midtown. Small place, no one we knew. She was already there when I arrived. No silk blouse this time. No designer bag on the chair beside her. Just Emily, smaller somehow, sitting with both hands wrapped around a mug like she needed something to hold on to. She looked up when I walked in, and she cried. Real tears, not the performance I'd seen 100 times on her live streams, the pretty crying, the single tear for the camera. This was ugly crying, shoulders shaking, voice breaking. "I'm sorry," she said. "I am so sorry. I didn't understand what I was doing to you. I don't know what I thought. I just always believed you'd be fine. that you'd always land on your feet, and I never would, and it wasn't fair." She kept going. The apology was long and detailed, and in many places genuinely painful to hear. I let her finish. I didn't interrupt. I didn't comfort her. I just listened. And while I listened, I noticed something. Her hand, resting on the table beside her coffee cup, a small silver pen, tilted slightly toward me. The kind with a tiny microphone built into the clip. I'd seen one before. Sandra had shown me during our first meeting. People use these more than you'd think. I reached into my bag, placed a small black device on the table between us. A signal jammer. Blocks recording within 10 feet. Emily's eyes dropped to it, then back to me. The crying stopped. Just like that. We looked at each other for a long moment. Two sisters, across a coffee shop table. No cameras, no lawyers, no audience. Just the truth between us. I reached back into my bag and placed an envelope beside the jammer. 2 plane tickets, I said quietly. Dallas. 1 for you, 1 for Dad. One way. I've purchased your debt from the bank. Both of yours. Which means I'm not just your sister anymore. I'm your creditor. And I have every legal right to pursue criminal charges for the forgery. She stared at the envelope. But I won't. If you go. And if you stay gone. Emily. I waited until she looked at me. I loved you for 30 years. I would have given you anything you asked for, honestly. But you didn't ask. You took. And there's no coming back from that. She picked up the envelope. Didn't open it. Just held it in her lap. I stood up, put on my coat, and looked at her one last time. "Take care of yourself," I said. I mean that. I walked out into the cold November air. No anger, no tears. Just a woman who had finally, completely chosen herself. Some people will say I was too hard. That family deserves infinite chances. But here's what 11 years taught me. Love without limits isn't love. It's an open door for people who were never planning to stay. I closed that door. And for the first time in my life, I felt the quiet on the other side.